The Magic of Thinking Big. 21 Transformative Lessons for a Bigger, Bolder Life. Introduction. Welcome, friend. You're about to embark on one of the most powerful journeys you will ever take, the journey of transforming how you think, not just what you think about, but the very size and shape of your thoughts. David J. Schwartz wrote The Magic of Thinking Big decades ago, and yet its message remains as urgent and relevant today as it was the day it was published. Why? Because the fundamental challenge of being human has not changed. We still struggle with fear. We still doubt ourselves. We still play small when we were born to play big. This book is not about wishful thinking. It is not about positive affirmations taped to your bathroom mirror, though those can help. It is about a fundamental shift in the way you approach life, a shift that begins in the deepest recesses of your mind and radiates outward into every relationship, every career move, every dream you hold dear. Think about it this way. Two people can have identical talents, identical education, identical opportunities, yet one of them thrives while the other merely survives. What makes the difference? 9 times out of 10, it is not talent. It is not luck. It is the size of their thinking. The person who thinks big sees possibilities where others see problems. The person who thinks big takes action where others hesitate. The person who thinks big believes in themselves even when the evidence suggests they should not. In this book, we will explore 21 transformative lessons drawn from Dr. Schwartz's masterpiece. Each lesson is designed to challenge your assumptions, expand your vision, and give you practical tools for living a bigger, bolder, more fulfilling life. These are not abstract theories. These are real, practical strategies that real people have used to transform their lives. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and let us begin. Point 1. Believe you can succeed, and you are the foundation of all achievement. Here is a truth so simple that most people miss it entirely. The first step to getting what you want is believing you can get it. Sounds obvious, right? Yet millions of people wake up every morning convinced that success is for other people, more talented people, more connected people, people who started with advantages they never had. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a single mom working 2 jobs, one at a diner during the day, one at a call center at night. She had a high school diploma, a mountain of bills, and a dream of going back to school to become a nurse. Every time she thought about enrolling in nursing school, a voice in her head whispered, "Were you kidding? You are 34 years old. You have kids to feed. You cannot afford to take time off. People like you do not become nurses." That voice nearly won. For 3 years, Sarah listened to it. She stayed stuck in her cycle of exhaustion and financial struggle. She was convinced that the life she wanted was reserved for people who had it easier, people who had started younger, people who had more money in the bank. Then one day, a coworker named Maria said something that changed everything. Maria had been in Sarah's exact situation 5 years earlier. She was now a registered nurse earning a comfortable living. She looked Sarah in the eye and said, "The only difference between us is that I stopped telling myself I could not do it." How belief shapes reality. That simple statement cracked something open in Sarah. She went home that night, sat at her kitchen table, and wrote down 2 words on a piece of paper: "I can." She taped it to the bathroom mirror where she would see it every morning while brushing her teeth. It was not magic. It was not a fairy tale. It was a decision to stop believing the lie she had been telling herself for years. Sarah enrolled in nursing school the following month. Was it hard? Absolutely. She studied after her kids went to bed. She worked double shifts on weekends to pay tuition. She failed the chemistry exam and wanted to quit. But every time doubt crept in, she looked at those 2 words on her mirror, and she kept going. 3 years later, Sarah graduated nursing school with honors. She now works in a pediatric ward, earning 3 times what she used to make at the diner. More importantly, she wakes up every morning excited about her life. Sarah's story is not exceptional. It is ordinary in the most extraordinary way. Thousands of people like Sarah have discovered the same truth. When you change what you believe is possible, you change what you do. Your brain is an extraordinarily powerful organ. It processes millions of bits of information every second, filtering reality through the lens of your beliefs. When you believe you can succeed, your brain actively looks for evidence to support that belief. It notices opportunities. It finds connections. It generates creative solutions. This is not wishful thinking, it is neuroscience. Practical steps to build belief first. Surround yourself with believers. The people you spend time with shape your thinking more than you realize. If you are surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, and play small, their attitude will seep into your own thinking. Seek out people who believe in possibilities, who take action, and who support your growth. Second, feed your mind with success stories. Read biographies of people who overcame impossible odds. Listen to podcasts about people who started from nothing and built extraordinary lives. Every story of success is evidence that success is possible for someone like you. Third, take small actions that prove you can succeed. Success builds on success. Start with something small, something you are confident you can accomplish, and build from there. Each small win deposits a little more belief into your confidence bank account. Fourth, reframe failure as feedback. When you do not succeed at something, ask yourself what you can learn from the experience rather than what it says about your worth as a person. Failure is not evidence that you cannot succeed. It is data that helps you adjust your approach. Point 1. The ripple effect of belief. How your beliefs affect others. Your beliefs do not just affect you, they ripple outward into every relationship, every interaction, every corner of your life. When you believe in yourself, you give other people permission to believe in you too. When you doubt yourself, you create doubt in the minds of others. Consider the story of Maria, a young woman who wanted to start a community garden in her neighborhood. Her neighbors thought she was crazy. The lot was overgrown, the soil was contaminated, and nobody in the area seemed interested in gardening. But Maria believed it was possible. She believed that if she could create something beautiful in that neglected space, it would bring the community together. Maria started by cleaning the lot herself. She hauled away trash, tested the soil, and brought in fresh dirt. Day after day, her neighbors watched her work. Some shook their heads, some laughed, but some started to wonder. Maybe she was onto something. Within 6 months, Maria had 3 volunteers. Within a year, she had 20. The garden became a gathering place, a source of fresh vegetables, and a point of pride for the entire neighborhood. All because one woman believed it was possible when everyone else believed it was not. The compound effect of belief compounds over time, just like money in a savings account. Each time you believe in yourself and take action, you build a track record of success. That track record makes it easier to believe in yourself the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Think of belief as a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The less you use it, the weaker it becomes. If you have been doubting yourself for years, your belief muscle is weak, but it is not dead. It can be rebuilt, one small action at a time. Start with something you are confident you can do. Do it. Celebrate the success. Then do something slightly harder. Do it. Celebrate again. Each success builds on the last, creating an upward spiral of belief and achievement. The compound effect of belief is one of the most powerful forces in personal development. It is the reason why people who believe in themselves seem to succeed effortlessly. They have built up years of belief that makes success feel natural. But it started with a single choice, to believe. Point 2. Cure yourself of excusitis. The failure disease. What is excusitis? If self-doubt is the seed of failure, then excuses are the water that keeps it growing. Dr. Schwartz calls this condition excusitis, the chronic habit of making excuses for why you cannot do something, why you are not successful, and why you should not even try. Excusitis is everywhere. It is the most common disease of the human mind. And like any disease, it is most dangerous when left untreated. Let me tell you about David. David was a talented writer who had been telling people for 15 years that he was working on a novel. The truth was, he had not written a single chapter. Every time he sat down at his keyboard, excuses flooded his mind. I am too busy with my day job. The market for fiction is terrible right now. I do not have a degree in creative writing. I need to do more research first. Nobody will want to read what I write. David was not lying to people. He was lying to himself. His excuses were not reasons, they were shields. They protected him from the terrifying possibility of putting his heart on the page and having the world say, "This is not good enough." One day, David's friend Alina said something that cut through all his defenses. She said, "David, you are not afraid that your novel will be bad. You are afraid that it might be good." That sentence hit David like a thunderbolt. He realized that his excuses were not protecting him from failure. They were preventing him from success. He was so afraid of not being perfect that he chose to be nothing at all. The four types of excusitis. Health excusitis is the tendency to use health as an excuse for not pursuing your goals. I would exercise more, but I have bad knees. I would take that job, but my health would not hold up. While health challenges are real, they are rarely the complete barrier that excusitis makes them out to be. For every person who uses their health as an excuse, there is someone with the same condition who has found a way to succeed anyway. Intelligence excusitis is perhaps the most insidious form. I would go back to school, but I am not smart enough. I would apply for that promotion, but I am not as educated as the other candidates. The irony is that intelligence is far less important than most people believe. Success is determined far more by persistence, attitude, and emotional intelligence than by raw IQ. Age excusitis is the belief that you are either too young or too old to pursue your dreams. I am too young to be taken seriously. I am too old to start over. Colonel Sanders started KFC at 65. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook at 19. Grandma Moses began her painting career at 78. Luck excusitis is the belief that success is primarily determined by luck, and that you simply do not have enough of it. I never win anything. Successful people just got lucky. While luck does play a role in life, it is far less significant than most people think. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Building an excuse-free life. The first step is radical honesty. Most people do not even realize they are making excuses. They have been doing it for so long that it has become automatic. Start by paying attention to the language you use. Words like cannot, should not, could have, and would have but are red flags. The second step is to separate the excuse from the fear. Every excuse has an emotion hiding behind it. I cannot start a business because I do not have enough money might really mean I am afraid of losing my financial security. Once you identify the real fear, you can address it directly. Tom was a classic case of excusitis. For years, he wanted to learn to play guitar. Every time he considered buying one, an excuse popped up. One day, Tom's grandson came to visit and brought a cheap acoustic guitar. The boy asked Tom to play something with him. Tom said he could not play. The boy said, I cannot play either. That is why I need someone to practice with. That moment broke through years of excusitis. Tom picked up the guitar and played 3 notes that sounded terrible. They both laughed, and they kept playing. Within 3 years, Tom was performing at local open mic nights. He was 64 years old, and he had finally stopped letting excuses steal his joy. Point to the excuse-free life and practice common excuses and their hidden truths. Let us examine some of the most common excuses people make and uncover the hidden truths behind them. I do not have enough time usually means I have not prioritized this. I do not have enough money usually means I have not been willing to take the financial risk. I am not ready usually means I am afraid to fail. These excuses feel real because they contain elements of truth. You may genuinely be busy. You may genuinely lack funds. You may genuinely feel unprepared. But these facts are not barriers, they are challenges to be solved. The person who makes an excuse sees a dead end. The person who thinks big sees a detour. Consider the story of Rachel. Rachel wanted to go back to school to get her MBA but said she could not afford it. Her friend asked her how much she spent on coffee, streaming services, and dining out each month. The total was over $400. Over 4 years, that was nearly $20,000, enough to cover her entire tuition. Rachel was not broke. She was misaligned. She was spending money on things that did not matter to her and telling herself she could not afford the thing that did. When she realigned her spending with her priorities, the money appeared. It had been there all along. The social dimension of excusitis. Excusitis is not just an individual disease, it is a social one. When you surround yourself with people who make excuses, their behavior normalizes your own. You begin to see excuse making as acceptable, even admirable. I tried, but becomes a badge of honor rather than a confession of defeat. This is why environment matters so much. The people around you either support your growth or reinforce your limitations. If your friends make excuses for their lack of success, you will be tempted to do the same. If your friends take responsibility for their outcomes, you will be inspired to do the same. Dr. Schwartz observed that excusitis is particularly common in groups that have been historically marginalized. When society tells you that the deck is stacked against you, It is easy to believe that effort is futile, but history is filled with people who overcame extraordinary obstacles through sheer determination. The cure for social excusitis is to find a community of people who take responsibility, who act despite obstacles, and who celebrate effort rather than excuses. In such a community, excuse making feels wrong and action feels natural. Point 3, build confidence and destroy fear. Fear battle confidence, and fear are not opposites. They are competing forces within you. At any given moment, one of them is in the driver's seat. The question is not whether you will ever feel fear. You will for the rest of your life. The question is whether fear will drive or whether you will. Let me tell you about Rachel. Rachel was terrified of public speaking. Just the thought of standing in front of a group of people made her palms sweat and her heart race. This fear cost her dearly. She was passed over for promotions because she could not present her ideas to senior leadership. She avoided networking events. She even declined her best friend's wedding because she did not want to give a toast. Rachel's fear was not irrational. She had experienced a humiliating moment in college when she forgot her lines during a debate tournament. The audience laughed. She fled the stage in tears. That single experience planted a seed of fear that grew for 15 years. The turning point came when she was offered a dream job, but only if she could pass a presentation component of the interview. She hired a speaking coach who asked her a question that changed everything. What is the worst thing that can happen if you give a presentation and it goes badly? Rachel thought for a moment and said, people would think I am incompetent. The coach then asked, and what is the worst thing that can happen if you never give a presentation? Rachel whispered, I would spend the rest of my life wondering what I could have become. How fear holds you back. Fear creates physical symptoms that mimic danger: rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing, sweaty palms, tense muscles. Your body is responding to a perceived threat, even when there is no real danger. These physical symptoms lead to avoidance behavior. You avoid the situations that trigger fear, which provides temporary relief but long-term damage. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was a talented chef who dreamed of opening his own restaurant. But he had a deep fear of financial risk. Every time he got close to taking the leap, he would create elaborate spreadsheets showing all the ways the restaurant could fail. Michael was not doing his due diligence. He was feeding his fear. The turning point came when he attended a small business workshop led by Diane, who had opened 3 successful restaurants. When someone asked her how she managed the risk, she said, I did not manage the risk. I managed my fear. Diane explained that she had felt exactly the same fear, but she had learned to separate the fear from the facts. Michael opened his restaurant 6 months later. It was small, scrappy, and imperfect, but it was his, and within 2 years, it had become a neighborhood favorite. The food was excellent, yes, but the real ingredient was Michael's willingness to step beyond fear and into possibility. Building unshakable confidence. The most effective way to build confidence is through mastery experiences, situations where you face a challenge, take action, and succeed. Each mastery experience deposits a little more confidence into your psychological bank account. Physical posture also plays a powerful role in confidence. Research has shown that adopting expansive, open postures, standing tall, shoulders back, arms uncrossed, actually changes your hormonal profile, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol. Before a challenging situation, take 2 minutes to stand in a power pose. Let me tell you about Kenji. Kenji was a quiet, introverted software developer who avoided meetings, dodged small talk, and kept his camera off during video calls. His manager suggested he join a local Toastmasters club. That first meeting was terrifying, but something unexpected happened. The other members smiled, nodded, and encouraged him. 6 months into his Toastmasters journey, Kenji gave a speech that made 3 people cry. Kenji's transformation did not happen overnight. It happened one small, courageous step at a time. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you create. Point 3, confidence in the real world. Confidence in relationships. Confidence transforms not just your career but your relationships. When you are confident, you show up differently. You communicate more clearly. You set healthier boundaries. You attract people who respect and admire you. Consider the story of David and Laura. David was insecure in his marriage. He was jealous, controlling, and constantly seeking reassurance. Laura felt suffocated and unhappy. Their marriage was on the brink of collapse. David started working on his confidence. He went to therapy. He pursued hobbies that made him feel competent. He built friendships outside his marriage that gave him a sense of identity. As his confidence grew, his jealousy and control faded. Laura noticed the change immediately. "You seem different," she said one evening. "I feel different," David replied. Their marriage did not just survive, it thrived. David's confidence had given Laura the space to be herself, and that freedom deepened their love. Teaching confidence to others, one of the most valuable things you can do is help others build their confidence. When you mentor, coach, or support someone who is struggling with self-doubt, you create a multiplier effect. Your confidence grows as you help someone else grow. Think about the teachers, coaches, and mentors who believed in you when you did not believe in yourself. Their confidence in you was a gift that changed your life. You can give that same gift to others. Building confidence in others requires patience, encouragement, and honest feedback. You cannot do the work for them, they must take the steps themselves. But you can create an environment where growth is safe, failure is acceptable, and effort is celebrated. The most confident people are not the ones who hoard their confidence. They are the ones who share it. They lift others up, celebrate others' successes, and create communities of possibility. Their confidence becomes contagious, spreading far beyond themselves. Point 4. Cure yourself of fear of people. Understanding fear of people. The fear of people is one of the most widespread and destructive fears. It manifests as social anxiety, difficulty speaking up in meetings, avoidance of networking events, and an overwhelming desire to please everyone. Dr. Schwartz argues that this fear is almost entirely based on false beliefs. Consider the story of Kevin. Kevin was brilliant at his job as a data analyst but could not bring himself to speak to senior executives. When his boss invited him to a strategy meeting with the CEO, Kevin made up an excuse about having a deadline. The truth was, he was terrified that the CEO would think he was stupid. Kevin's fear was based on a false assumption that the CEO spent her time judging and criticizing junior employees. In reality, the CEO was too busy running a billion-dollar company to worry about whether a junior analyst was smart enough. Kevin had built an entire fantasy scenario in his head, and it was completely wrong. The reality is that most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. They are too busy worrying about themselves. Understanding this simple fact is the beginning of freedom from fear of people. Why people are not as scary as you think. Here is a secret that will liberate you. Every person you admire, every person you fear, every person who seems to have it all together is just a human being. They have insecurities. They have bad days. They have weaknesses and doubts. The CEO who intimidates you probably worries about her teenagers. The attractive person at the gym probably worries about looking stupid. Let me tell you about Angela. Angela had a paralyzing fear of authority figures. She could not speak to her boss without stuttering. She could not email a client without rewriting the message 10 times. She lived in constant terror of saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. Everything changed when Angela accidentally overheard her boss on a personal phone call. He was talking to his wife about their toddler who had just started daycare and was crying every morning. The boss, the person Angela had been terrified of, was just a worried dad. That revelation cracked Angela's illusion wide open. People are not as scary as you think because you have inflated them in your mind. You have given them powers they do not possess. They cannot read your thoughts. They cannot destroy your career with a single judgment. They are human beings, just like you, navigating an uncertain world. How to overcome fear of people. Start by realizing that fear of people is really fear of judgment. And judgment says more about the person judging than the person being judged. When someone criticizes you, they are revealing their own values, their own insecurities, their own perspective. It is not about you. Practice the art of assuming the best. Instead of assuming that someone is judging you negatively, assume they are thinking neutral or positive thoughts about you. Most of the time, you will be right. And even when you are not, their negative thoughts are their problem, not yours. Kevin, the data analyst we met earlier, eventually started attending those strategy meetings. His first few times were awkward. He barely spoke, but he kept showing up. By the sixth meeting, he made a comment about a data trend that caught the CEO's attention. She asked him to elaborate. His heart was pounding, but he spoke clearly and confidently. After the meeting, The CEO stopped him in the hallway and said, "That was a brilliant insight. I want you on the analytics team for the new product launch." One moment of courage changed Kevin's entire career trajectory. And it started with the simple realization that the CEO was not his enemy, she was a potential ally. When you stop fearing people and start connecting with them, your world opens up in ways you never imagined. Point for the art of connecting with anyone breaking through social barriers. Fear of people creates invisible walls that prevent you from connecting with others. These walls are built from false beliefs. They will judge me. They will reject me. They are better than me. Breaking through these walls requires courage and practice. Let me tell you about James. James was a software engineer who dreaded networking events. He would stand in the corner, nursing a drink, hoping nobody would talk to him. His career stagnated because he could not build the relationships necessary for advancement. One day, James set a challenge for himself: talk to 3 strangers at the next networking event, not 33. The first conversation was awkward and lasted less than 2 minutes. The second was slightly better. By the third, James was having a genuine conversation about a project he was working on. That small experiment changed James's entire approach to networking. He realized that most people at networking events were just as uncomfortable as he was. They were not waiting to judge him. They were hoping someone would talk to them. The skill of listening. One of the most powerful social skills is the ability to listen, truly listen, to another person. Most people do not listen. They wait for their turn to talk. They formulate their response while the other person is still speaking. They hear the words but miss the meaning. Real listening requires presence. It means putting down your phone, making eye contact, and giving your full attention to the person speaking. It means asking follow-up questions that show you understand. It means resisting the urge to make the conversation about yourself. When you listen deeply, something magical happens. People feel valued. They open up. They share things they would not share with anyone else. And in that moment of genuine connection, the fear of people dissolves. You realize that people are not scary. They are fascinating. James, the networking phobic engineer, became known as one of the best listeners in his company. People sought him out for advice, for perspective, and for the simple comfort of being heard. His career flourished not because he learned to talk, but because he learned to listen. Point 5: enrich your personality and become influential. The myth of fixed personality. Many people believe that personality is fixed. You are either born charismatic or you are not. Dr. Schwartz demolishes this myth. Personality is not a birthright. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed, refined, and mastered over time. Think about the most influential people in your life. They were not necessarily the most intelligent, the most attractive, or the most talented. They were the people who made you feel seen, heard, and valued. That feeling is not magic. It is a set of learnable behaviors. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa was an accountant who desperately wanted to move into management. She had the technical skills, the experience, and the credentials, but she lacked what her manager called executive presence. In meetings, she was quiet and withdrawn. When she did speak, she mumbled. She avoided eye contact. She gave off the impression of someone who did not want to be noticed. Lisa decided to change. She started with something simple. She began making eye contact with people when she spoke to them. That one change created a noticeable difference. People started paying attention to her. They started taking her ideas more seriously. Building charisma. Step by step. Charisma is not about being the loudest person in the room. It is about being the most present. When you give someone your full attention, when you listen deeply, ask thoughtful questions, and respond with genuine interest, you create a magnetic connection that people remember. Practice the art of genuine curiosity. When you meet someone, ask them about themselves, not in a superficial way, but in a way that shows you actually want to know. What are you passionate about? What is the most exciting project you are working on? What made you choose this career? Lisa started practicing these skills in low-stakes situations. She made eye contact with baristas. She asked her coworkers about their weekends. She complimented people genuinely. Each interaction was a small experiment, and each experiment built her confidence. Over 6 months, Lisa's personality transformed. She was still the same person underneath, still introverted, still analytical, still thoughtful, but she had added new dimensions to her personality. She could command a room when she needed to. She could connect with anyone. She could project confidence even when she did not feel it. The power of genuine interest in others. Dale Carnegie, a contemporary of Dr. Schwartz, said, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." This is one of the most powerful personality principles ever articulated. When you show genuine interest in others, several things happen. First, they feel valued. In a world where most people are focused on themselves, your attention is a gift. Second, they associate that positive feeling with you. Third, they become interested in you in return. It is a beautiful cycle. Consider the story of Marcus. Marcus was a real estate agent who struggled to close deals. He was technically proficient. He knew the market. He understood the numbers. He could explain the contract terms. But clients kept choosing other agents. His manager finally told him the truth. "Marcus, you know everything about houses, but you know nothing about people." Marcus started doing something different. Before showing a property, he asked the clients about their lives. What did they do for work? What did they love to do on weekends? What were their dreams for their family? He listened, really listened, to their answers. Then he showed them properties that matched not just their budget, but their lives. Marcus's sales doubled within a year. He did not change his technical knowledge or his marketing strategy. He changed his approach to people. He stopped trying to sell houses and started trying to help families find homes. That shift, from transactional to relational, changed everything. Point 5: The influence of small habits on personality. Daily habits that shape who you are. Your personality is not fixed at birth. It is shaped by the habits you practice every day. The way you greet people, the way you handle stress, the way you spend your free time. All of these habits contribute to the person you are becoming. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin was a quiet, reserved person who wanted to become more outgoing. He tried personality transformation courses, read books on charisma, and even hired a coach. But nothing seemed to stick. Then Kevin's coach gave him a simple assignment: say good morning to one new person every day. Just good morning, nothing more. Kevin thought it was silly, but he tried it. The first few days were awkward, but by the end of the first week, something had shifted. People started saying good morning back to him. Some of them smiled. A few of them stopped to chat. That simple habit, saying good morning, cascaded into other changes. Kevin started making eye contact. Then he started asking questions. Then he started remembering names. Within a year, Kevin was one of the most well-liked people in his office. Not because he changed his personality, but because he changed his habits. The power of consistent small actions. Personality change does not happen through dramatic gestures. It happens through small, consistent actions repeated over time. Each action is a vote for the person you want to become. Want to be more confident? Act confidently, even when you do not feel it. Want to be more kind? Perform small acts of kindness every day. Want to be more courageous? Do one thing that scares you every week. Over time, these small actions become habits, and those habits become your personality. Dr. Schwartz emphasizes that personality is not something you have, it is something you do. It is the sum of your behaviors, not the expression of some innate quality. This means you have complete control over who you are becoming. The most transformative realization in personal development is that you are not stuck with the personality you have. You can reshape it, refine it, and reinvent it through deliberate practice. Every day is a new opportunity to become a little more of the person you want to be. Point 6: Your environment is what you make it. The people around you shape your reality. You have heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It is one of the most quoted and most ignored pieces of advice in personal development. The reason it is ignored is that it is uncomfortable to hear. It suggests that the people you love, the people you have known for years, might actually be holding you back. Let me tell you about Lisa. Lisa was a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. She was ambitious, creative, and eager to move up, but her friends from college had taken a different path. They worked in safe jobs, spent their evenings watching Netflix, and spent their weekends complaining about their bosses and their salaries. Whenever Lisa mentioned her career goals, her friends would respond with comments like, "Must be nice to be so ambitious. Why would you want more responsibility? You are going to burn yourself out." Lisa loved her friends, but she began to notice that their attitude was contagious. After spending time with them, she felt less motivated. Lisa realized that she had been spending her social energy with people who drained her instead of people who fueled her. She did not abandon her old friends, but she deliberately expanded her social circle to include people who thought bigger. The effect was immediate. Within months, she had new ideas, new strategies, and a new sense of possibility. Creating a big thinking environment start with your physical space. Look around your home and office. Do they inspire you? Do they reflect the person you are becoming? A cluttered, uninspiring environment sends a constant signal to your brain that nothing new is happening. Next, audit your information diet. What podcasts do you listen to? What books do you read? What social media accounts do you follow? Every piece of information you consume either expands or contracts your thinking. Then, curate your social circle with intention. Join professional organizations. Attend networking events. Take classes. Find mentors. Every new relationship is a new source of inspiration and possibility. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was an aspiring entrepreneur who spent most of his time with his college buddies who were deeply skeptical of entrepreneurship. Then Robert discovered a local entrepreneur meetup. The people he met were ordinary people who had decided to take a risk on themselves. Robert's worldview shifted dramatically. He launched his business 6 months later, and within 2 years, he was earning enough to quit his day job. Turning negative environments into positive ones sometimes, you cannot simply walk away from a negative environment. You may have a job you need, a family situation you cannot change, or a community that you are rooted in. In these cases, the challenge is not to escape the environment, but to transform your relationship with it. The key is to become a source of positive thinking rather than a victim of negative thinking. When you project confidence, optimism, and possibility, you create a ripple effect that influences the people around you. Angela worked in a government office where negativity was the dominant culture. Instead of being dragged down, she decided to be a positive influence. She smiled at people. She said good morning. She offered to help with projects. She celebrated her coworkers' wins. Over time, something remarkable happened. Angela's positive attitude began to spread. The overall mood of the office improved. Angela eventually left, not because she was unhappy, but because a private sector company recruited her for a leadership position. Her positive attitude had not only improved her experience, it had attracted her new opportunity. Point 6 Environmental Design for Success. Designing your physical environment. Your physical environment sends constant signals to your brain. A cluttered desk says you are overwhelmed. A clean desk says you are in control. A refrigerator full of junk food says health is not a priority. A refrigerator full of fresh produce says health matters. The principle is simple. Design your environment to support the behaviors you want and remove the triggers for the behaviors you want to change. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow. If you want to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, remove junk food from your house. Consider the story of Michelle. Michelle wanted to write a novel but could never find the time. Her evenings were consumed by television, not because she loved TV, but because the TV was in the living room. The remote was on the couch, and the couch was comfortable. Michelle moved her writing desk to the exact spot where the TV had been. She put a comfortable chair, a desk lamp, and her laptop in that spot. The TV went to the basement. Within a week, she was writing every evening. She had not gained willpower. She had redesigned her environment. Designing your social environment. Your social environment is even more powerful than your physical environment. The people you interact with daily shape your beliefs, habits, and expectations. Choose them wisely. Audit your social circle. Who are the people who energize you? Who are the people who drain you? Who are the people who inspire you to grow? Who are the people who keep you stuck? You do not have to eliminate anyone, but you can deliberately increase time with the former and decrease time with the latter. The goal is not to surround yourself with people who agree with you. It is to surround yourself with people who challenge you, support you, and believe in your potential. These are the people who will help you become the person you want to be. Your environment is not your destiny. It is your starting point. By deliberately designing both your physical and social environments, you create the conditions for success. You make it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing. And over time, That advantage compounds into a life that looks nothing like the one you would have lived by default. Point 7. Make your attitude your ally's attitude is everything. Your attitude is the composite of your thoughts, feelings, and actions toward yourself, others, and the world around you. It is the invisible force that shapes every experience of your life. Two people can face the exact same situation and have completely different experiences because their attitudes are different. Think about rainy days. Some people hate them. They grumble about the wet, the cold, the inconvenience. Other people love them. They find the sound of rain soothing, the fresh air invigorating, the excuse to stay home with a good book welcome. The rain is the same. The attitude is different, and the experience is completely different as a result. Let me tell you about James. James was a customer service representative at a telecommunications company. He dealt with angry customers all day long. Most of his coworkers dreaded the calls. They would complain about rude customers, unreasonable demands, and thankless work. James had a completely different attitude. He saw every angry customer as an opportunity to make someone's day better. Most people are not angry at me, he would say. They are angry at the situation. And if I can fix the situation, I can turn their whole day around. Choosing your attitude, doctor. Schwartz makes a powerful argument. Your attitude is a choice. You may not be able to control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. This is not denial or suppression. It is conscious, deliberate selection of the attitude that serves you best. Consider the story of Patricia. Patricia was diagnosed with a chronic illness at age 40. The diagnosis was devastating. She went through a period of grief and anger that lasted several months. But eventually, she made a decision. She would not let the illness define her life. Patricia chose an attitude of determination. She educated herself about her condition. She found the best doctors. She adjusted her lifestyle to manage her symptoms. And she continued to pursue her career, her hobbies, and her relationships with vigor. She often said, "The illness is part of my life. It is not my whole life." Years later, Patricia became an advocate for others with the same condition. She started a support group, wrote a blog, and spoke at conferences. Her attitude had not only saved her own life, it was saving others' lives too. Attitude contagion. Attitudes are contagious. Just as a cold can spread from person to person, attitudes spread through social networks. When you're around positive people, you feel positive. When you're around negative people, you feel negative. This is not weakness, it is human nature. The practical implication is powerful. You can improve your own attitude by surrounding yourself with people who have the attitude you want. You can also improve the attitudes of others by modeling the attitude you want to see. Think about the most positive person you know. Chances are they are not positive because their life is perfect. They are positive because they have chosen to focus on what is good, what is working, and what is possible. And their positivity creates a gravitational field that draws others in. Your attitude is the most valuable asset you own. It is more valuable than your education, your experience, your network, or your bank account, because with the right attitude, you can acquire all of those things. And without it, you can lose everything you have. Choose your attitude wisely and guard it fiercely. Point 7. Attitudes and action. Attitude under pressure. Your true attitude is revealed under pressure. Anyone can be positive when things are going well. The test of your attitude is how you respond when things go wrong, when you lose a client, when your project fails, when life throws you a curveball. Consider the story of Natalie. Natalie was a project manager who lost a major contract due to circumstances beyond her control. Her team was devastated. The client had been their biggest source of revenue, and losing it meant budget cuts, layoffs, and uncertainty. Natalie could have spiraled into despair. Instead, she gathered her team and said, "This is painful, but it is also an opportunity. We have been wanting to diversify our client base for years. Now we have no choice. Let us make it happen." Her attitude set the tone for the entire team. Instead of mourning the loss, they got to work. Within 6 months, they had replaced the lost revenue with 3 new clients. By the end of the year, they were more profitable than before. Natalie's attitude had not just saved the team, it had transformed the company. The daily attitude practice. Attitude is not something you set and forget. It requires daily practice, just like physical fitness. You would not expect to stay fit by exercising once a month. The same is true for attitude. Dr. Schwartz recommends a daily attitude check-in. Each morning, before you start your day, take 5 minutes to set your intention. How do you want to show up today? What attitude do you want to bring to your interactions? What kind of energy do you want to radiate? Each evening, review your day. Where did your attitude serve you well? Where did it let you down? What can you do differently tomorrow? This practice of daily reflection and adjustment keeps your attitude sharp and responsive. The people who maintain great attitudes over the long term are not naturally positive people. They are people who practice positivity every day. They guard their minds, choose their thoughts carefully, and surround themselves with people who support their growth. Attitude is a choice, and it is a choice you make every single day. Point 8. Think right toward people. The power of genuine interest. The way you think about people determines how you treat them, and how you treat them determines the quality of your relationships. Dr. Schwartz argues that most people go through life with a defensive, suspicious, or indifferent attitude toward others. This attitude creates barriers that prevent deep, meaningful connections. Consider the story of Thomas. Thomas was a manager at a logistics company who prided himself on being tough but fair. In reality, he was cold and distant. He rarely praised his team. He avoided small talk. He communicated primarily through email, even when the person was sitting 10 feet away. Thomas's team had the highest turnover in the company. People did not leave because of the salary or the workload. They left because of Thomas. They felt invisible, unappreciated, and undervalued. One by one, the best performers found jobs elsewhere. When Thomas's director showed him the exit interview data, he was stunned. "I thought they respected me," he said. The director replied, "Respect without warmth is just fear, and fear does not build loyalty." That feedback hit Thomas hard. He realized that his approach to people was not tough, it was lazy. It was easier to keep people at a distance than to invest in real relationships. Seeing the best in people, one of the most powerful principles in Dr. Schwartz's work, is the idea of looking for the best in people. When you expect the best from others, you tend to get it. When you expect the worst, you tend to get that too. This is not naivety, it is strategy. People rise or fall to meet the expectations you set for them. If you believe someone is capable and trustworthy, they will often prove you right. If you believe someone is incompetent and dishonest, they will often prove you right too. Your expectations create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Thomas, the cold manager we met earlier, decided to change his approach. He started by noticing one good thing about each team member every day. He started saying thank you. He started asking people about their lives outside of work. He started listening, really listening, to their ideas and concerns. The transformation was not instantaneous. Some team members were suspicious of the new Thomas. They thought it was a phase. But Thomas persisted. Over several months, the dynamic shifted. People started coming to him with ideas instead of problems. They started staying late not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The team went from the highest turnover to the lowest. The art of compliments and appreciation. Most people are starving for appreciation. They go through their days feeling invisible, unappreciated, and taken for granted. When you make a habit of genuinely recognizing the good in others, you become a source of light in their lives. A compliment costs you nothing but means everything to the person who receives it. The key word here is genuine. Fake flattery is worse than no compliment at all. People can tell the difference. A genuine compliment is specific, timely, and heartfelt. Instead of saying, "Good job," try saying, "The way you handled the difficult client showed real emotional intelligence. I learned something from watching you." Instead of saying, "Nice presentation," try saying, "Your use of storytelling made the data memorable. I can still recall the key points from your talk." Thomas became known as the manager who made people feel valued. His team's performance soared. His team members went on to become leaders themselves, carrying Thomas's philosophy of appreciation forward into their own careers. One person's attitude change can ripple outward in ways that are impossible to predict. Point 8. Building trust through positive thinking. Trust is the foundation of influence. Trust is the currency of influence. Without it, you cannot lead, inspire, or connect with others. And trust is built, in large part, through the way you think about and treat people. When you think right toward people, when you assume the best, Give the benefit of the doubt and show genuine care. Trust follows naturally. Consider the story of Daniel, a new manager who inherited a team that had been through 3 managers in 2 years. The team was cynical, disengaged, and distrustful of leadership. Previous managers had made promises they did not keep, micromanaged every task, and treated the team as expendable. Daniel took a different approach. In his first week, he held a one-on-one meeting with every team member. He did not talk about performance metrics or deadlines. He asked about their goals, their challenges, and their ideas for improvement. He listened, he took notes, and most importantly, he followed up on what they told him. Within 3 months, the team's morale had transformed. Trust was being rebuilt, one conversation at a time. Daniel had not changed the company's policies or increased the budget. He had simply changed the way he thought about his team, from resources to be managed to people to be valued. The long-term payoff of positive relationships are not just pleasant, they are profitable. Research consistently shows that people who have strong, trusting relationships at work are more productive, more creative, and more likely to be promoted. In personal life, strong relationships are the single greatest predictor of happiness and longevity. Building positive relationships requires investment. You cannot microwave trust. It takes time, consistency, and genuine care, but the investment pays dividends for years, even decades. Think about the most influential person in your life, the teacher who believed in you, the friend who supported you, the mentor who guided you. That person's influence was not based on their authority or their expertise. It was based on the relationship they built with you. They thought right toward you, and it changed your life. When you think right toward people, you create a legacy of positive impact. Your kindness ripples outward, touching lives you will never know about. Your generosity inspires generosity in others. Your trust creates trust. This is the hidden power of positive thinking. It does not just change you, it changes everyone around you. Point 9. Be a person of action. The cost of inaction. Inaction is the silent killer of dreams. It does not announce itself. It does not make dramatic entrances. It simply sits there, day after day, year after year, while opportunities pass you by and dreams fade into regrets. Dr. Schwartz understood that knowledge without action is useless. Strategy without execution is fantasy. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is bridged by one thing: action. Let me tell you about Jessica. Jessica had a business idea that she was convinced would work: a subscription box service for artisanal coffee. She spent months researching the market, analyzing competitors, creating spreadsheets, and writing business plans. She talked about her idea to friends, family, and anyone who would listen. Everyone told her it was brilliant, but Jessica never launched. There was always one more thing to research, one more spreadsheet to create, one more expert to consult. 3 years later, a competitor launched the exact same concept and became a success. Jessica was devastated. That was my idea, she told her husband. Her husband replied gently, an idea without action is just a thought. Jessica's story is painfully common. Most people have ideas, dreams, and plans that never see the light of day, not because the ideas are bad, but because the people who have them are afraid to act. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. And the perfect moment never comes. Why action creates clarity. Here is a counterintuitive truth that most people miss. You do not need to know everything before you start. You just need to know enough to take the first step. Action creates clarity in a way that thinking never can. When you act, you get feedback. You learn what works and what does not. You discover obstacles you never anticipated and find solutions you never would have imagined. This feedback is infinitely more valuable than anything you could learn from planning alone. Consider the story of Alex. Alex wanted to become a professional photographer but was paralyzed by the feeling that he did not know enough about lighting, composition, or post-processing. He watched hundreds of YouTube tutorials. He read every photography book he could find, but he never actually took professional photographs. One day, Alex's friend asked him to photograph her small wedding. Alex said he was not ready. She said, "You have been studying photography for 2 years. You are ready enough." Alex reluctantly agreed. The wedding photos were not perfect. Some were blurry, some had bad lighting, but the bride loved them. And the experience taught Alex more in one day than 2 years of studying had. Overcoming the paralysis of perfectionism. Perfectionism is inaction dressed up as high standards. The perfectionist does not act because their work is never good enough, but good enough is a moving target that recedes every time you approach it. The perfectionist is not pursuing excellence, they are running from vulnerability. The cure for perfectionism is what Dr. Schwartz calls the art of starting. Start before you are ready. Start before you are confident. Start before you have figured everything out. Start messy, start small, start scared. Just start. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria was a perfectionist who spent 2 years writing the first chapter of a novel. She rewrote it dozens of times, each time finding new flaws, new weaknesses, new reasons to start over. A writing coach told her, "Your first chapter will be bad. Write a bad first chapter and move on to the second." Maria was shocked by this advice. It went against everything her perfectionist brain believed. But she tried it. She gave herself permission to write badly. And something magical happened. Once the pressure to be perfect was removed, the words flowed freely. She finished the novel in 6 months. It needed editing, of course. All first drafts do. But it was done. And done is infinitely more valuable than perfect but unfinished. Point 9. The discipline of action. Building an action habit. Action is not a one-time event. It is a habit. And like any habit, it can be built through deliberate practice. The key is to make action your default response to every situation. Instead of thinking, analyzing, and planning, you act. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you create the moment. Let me tell you about Amanda. Amanda was a chronic overthinker. She would spend hours deliberating over small decisions: what to eat for lunch, what email to send first, which tasks to tackle. By the end of the day, she had made dozens of decisions but completed very little work. Amanda's turning point came when she adopted the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. No thinking, no planning, just do it. That simple rule eliminated hundreds of small decisions from her day and freed up mental energy for bigger things. Over time, Amanda extended the 2-minute rule to larger tasks. Instead of spending an hour planning how to write a report, she started writing. Instead of spending a week researching a business idea, she started prototyping. The quality of her work improved because she was learning by doing, not by thinking about doing. Action is a form of self-respect. Every time you take action on something that matters to you, you send a message to yourself: I matter. My goals matter. My dreams matter. Every time you procrastinate, you send the opposite message: I do not matter. My goals do not matter. My dreams do not matter. Action is a form of self-respect. It is the way you honor your own potential. It is the way you tell the world that you are serious about creating the life you want. The people who take action consistently are not necessarily more talented or more motivated than the people who procrastinate. They have simply made a decision that action is more important than comfort. They have chosen growth over safety, progress over perfection, and purpose over ease. You have the power to make that same choice, starting today. Choose action. Choose progress. Choose the discomfort of growth over the comfort of stagnation. The magic is in the doing. Point 10. Turn defeat into victory. Defeat is not final. Every successful person has a collection of failures behind them. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is not that successful people never fail. It is that they refuse to let failure define them. They treat defeat as a temporary setback, not a permanent condition. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was a restaurateur who opened his first restaurant at age 28. It failed within a year. He lost his entire savings. His wife was pregnant. His family told him to get a stable job. His friends thought he was crazy to try again. But Robert saw something in the failure that others did not. He saw specific, identifiable reasons why the restaurant failed. The location was wrong. The menu was too ambitious. The marketing was non-existent. These were not character flaws. They were fixable mistakes. Robert spent the next 2 years working in other people's restaurants, learning from their successes and mistakes. He opened his second restaurant at 31. It was smaller, simpler, and better positioned. Within 3 years, it was the most popular restaurant in town. Within 5 years, he had 3 locations. The anatomy of resilience. Resilience is not about being tough or emotionless. It is about feeling the pain of defeat and choosing to continue anyway. It is about acknowledging that something hurt while refusing to let the hurt stop you. Dr. Schwartz identifies several characteristics of resilient people. First, they have a clear sense of purpose that transcends any single setback. Second, they have a support system of people who believe in them. Third, they have the ability to reframe failure as learning. Fourth, they maintain their self-respect even when the world is telling them they failed. Consider the story of Yuki. Yuki was an entrepreneur who built a successful tech company that was acquired by a larger firm. After the acquisition, she was given a senior position at the acquiring company. Within a year, she was pushed out in a political power struggle. She was humiliated, angry, and devastated. Yuki spent 6 months processing the experience. She went to therapy. She traveled. She reflected on what had happened and what she could learn from it. Then she started her next company. This time, she was wiser, more politically savvy, and more strategic. Her second company was even more successful than the first. The victory in every defeat contains a victory, if you know where to look. The victory might be a lesson learned, a strength discovered, a relationship deepened, or a perspective gained. The key is to look for the victory, because it is always there. Think about the most difficult experience in your life. Now think about what you gained from it. Perhaps it made you stronger. Perhaps it taught you something you needed to know. Perhaps it redirected you to a better path. Perhaps it deepened your empathy for others who struggle. Dr. Schwartz tells the story of a man who lost his job, his savings, and his home in the span of 6 months. It was the worst period of his life. But looking back, he called it the best thing that ever happened to him. It stripped away everything I thought I needed and showed me what I actually needed, he said. The lesson is not that defeat is good. The lesson is that defeat can be made good by your response to it. You cannot control what happens to you. You can always control what you do with what happens to you. That is the victory that defeat can never take away. Point 11. Use goals to help you grow the power of goals. Goals are not just targets to aim for. They are the engine of personal growth. When you set a meaningful goal, you create a force that pulls you forward, expands your capabilities, and transforms you into the person you need to become to achieve it. Let me tell you about Carlos. Carlos was a high school teacher who felt stuck. He loved teaching but felt unchallenged. His daily routine had become predictable. Same classes, same lessons, same students, same complaints. He was going through the motions. One day, Carlos set a goal that scared him. He wanted to run a marathon. Carlos had never run more than a mile in his life. He was overweight, out of shape, and 42 years old. The goal seemed absurd, but the goal changed Carlos. To train for the marathon, he had to wake up early. He had to change his diet. He had to push through pain, boredom, and self-doubt. He had to learn about nutrition, pacing, and recovery. He had to become a different person. 11 months later, Carlos crossed the finish line of his first marathon. He was not fast. He was not graceful, but he finished. And the person who crossed that finish line was fundamentally different from the person who had signed up. Carlos was healthier, more disciplined, more confident, and more alive than he had been in years. Setting goals that transform. Not all goals are created equal. Goals that merely maintain the status quo, I want to keep my job or I want to stay healthy, are not transformative. Goals that stretch you, challenge you, and force you to grow are the ones that change your life. Dr. Schwartz recommends setting goals that are slightly beyond your current comfort zone. If you can already do something easily, it is not a growth goal. Growth happens at the edge of your capability, where effort meets possibility. Consider the story of Priya. Priya was a software developer who set a goal to learn a new programming language in 3 months. The language was notoriously difficult, and most developers took a year to become proficient. Priya's goal was aggressive, but not impossible. The goal forced Priya to change her habits. She stopped watching TV after work and studied instead. She joined online communities where she could ask questions and get feedback. She built projects that pushed her skills to the limit. By the end of 3 months, she was not fully proficient, but she was competent enough to use the language in her job. The growth process goals work because they trigger a process that psychologists call deliberate practice. When you set a goal that is beyond your current ability, your brain goes to work. It identifies the gap between where you are and where you need to be. It creates new neural pathways. It rewires itself to support the new behavior. This process is not comfortable. Growth requires discomfort. It requires doing things you have never done, facing things you have avoided, and being willing to be bad at something before you can be good at it. The key is to set goals that are meaningful enough to sustain you through the discomfort. If you do not care deeply about the goal, you will give up when things get hard. But if the goal matters to you, if it connects to your values, your identity, your vision of who you want to become, you will find the strength to keep going. Use goals as a vehicle for growth, not just achievement. The person you become in the process of pursuing a goal is often more valuable than the goal itself. Carlos did not just run a marathon, he became a marathon runner. That transformation, from sedentary to active, from predictable to adventurous, from comfortable to courageous, was the real prize. Point 12. Stop worrying and start living. The waste of worry. Worry is the most expensive habit in the world. It costs you your health, your happiness, your productivity, and your peace of mind, and it buys you nothing in return. Dr. Schwartz estimated that most of the things people worry about never actually happen, and the ones that do happen are rarely as bad as imagined. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda was a worrier. She worried about her job, her health, her kids, her finances, her relationships, the weather, the economy, and 1,000 other things she could not control. Her worry was so constant and so consuming that it had become her default state of mind. Linda's worry manifested physically. She had chronic insomnia, frequent headaches, and digestive problems. Her doctor told her that her symptoms were stress-related. Your body is keeping score, the doctor said, and it is losing. Linda knew she needed to change, but worry had become so habitual that she did not know how to stop. She tried meditation, but her mind raced. She tried deep breathing, but her thoughts spiraled. She tried ignoring her worries, but they always came back louder. Understanding the nature of worry. Worry is the mind's attempt to solve problems before they happen. On the surface, this sounds useful, but in practice, worry solves nothing. It does not prevent bad things from happening. It does not prepare you for challenges. It simply steals the joy of the present moment. Dr. Schwartz identifies two types of worry, productive and unproductive. Productive worry leads to action. You worry about being unprepared for a presentation, so you practice more. Unproductive worry leads to paralysis. You worry about a presentation that is weeks away and cannot stop thinking about it. The key distinction is whether the worry is about something you can control or something you cannot. If you can control it, stop worrying and take action. If you cannot control it, stop worrying and accept it. Either way, worry is not the answer. Linda learned this distinction through a therapist who introduced her to a simple exercise. Every time she worried, she would write down the worry and ask herself two questions. Can I do anything about this right now? And if not, is worrying about it going to help? The answer to the second question was always no. Practical strategies for overcoming worry. Set a worry time, a designated 15 minutes each day where you allow yourself to worry about anything and everything. Outside of that time, when a worry pops up, tell yourself, I will worry about that at 6 p.m. This sounds simplistic, but it works. It contains the worry instead of letting it spread throughout your day. Practice gratitude. Worry and gratitude cannot coexist in the same moment. When you focus on what you are thankful for, worry loses its grip. Start a gratitude journal. Write down 3 things you are grateful for every evening. Take action on the things you can control. The best antidote to worry is action. If you are worried about your health, see a doctor. If you are worried about your finances, make a budget. If you are worried about a relationship, have a conversation. Action replaces worry with purpose. Linda eventually overcame her chronic worry. It took time and practice, but the transformation was profound. Her insomnia resolved. Her headache stopped. Her digestion improved. She felt lighter, freer, and more present. She often said, I did not realize how heavy worry was until I put it down. Point 13. Think big, and you will live big. The connection between thinking and living. There is a direct, measurable connection between the size of your thoughts and the size of your life. People who think big live big. People who think small live small. This is not coincidence. It is cause and effect. Your thoughts determine your actions determine your results, and your results determine your life. Consider 2 neighbors. Both earn the same salary. Both live in the same neighborhood. But one of them saves aggressively, invests wisely, and builds wealth over time. The other spends everything, accumulates debt, and lives paycheck to paycheck. The difference is not income, it is thinking. One thinks about the future. The other thinks only about today. Let me tell you about Ken and Barbara. Ken and Barbara were childhood friends who grew up in the same small town. They had similar backgrounds, similar educations, and similar opportunities. But their adult lives took dramatically different paths. Ken thought small. He took the safest job he could find, lived in the same town, married someone from his high school class, and spent his evenings watching television. Nothing was wrong with Ken's life, exactly, but nothing was right with it either. It was a life of comfortable mediocrity. Living beyond your current circumstances, Barbara thought big. She took a job at a company that scared her. She moved to a city where she knew no one. She pursued relationships with people who challenged and inspired her. She spent her evenings learning new skills, volunteering, and exploring her interests. By age 50, Barbara was a senior executive at a multinational company. She had lived in 4 countries, spoken at international conferences, and mentored dozens of young professionals. She was not wealthier than Ken because she was luckier. She was wealthier because she had thought bigger. The lesson here is not that Ken's life was bad and Barbara's was good. People have different values, different priorities, and different definitions of success. The lesson is that the size of your thinking determines the range of possibilities available to you. If you think small, your options are limited. If you think big, your options multiply. Thinking big does not guarantee success, but thinking small almost guarantees mediocrity. The choice is yours, and it is a choice you make every single day. Expanding your mental horizons. How do you expand the size of your thinking? You start by becoming aware of the limits you have placed on yourself. Most of these limits are invisible. You do not realize you have them until you examine them closely. Ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I could not fail? What would I attempt if I were not afraid? What would I pursue if money were no object? The answers to these questions reveal the size of your dreams and the size of the gaps between where you are and where you could be. Dr. Schwartz recommends a practice he calls mental rehearsal. Each day, spend 10 minutes visualizing your ideal life in vivid detail. See yourself in the career you want, living in the place you want, surrounded by the people you want. Feel the emotions associated with that life. Let those emotions fuel your actions throughout the day. Ken, the neighbor who thought small, eventually had a wake-up call. At age 55, he was laid off from his job of 30 years. For the first time in his life, he was forced to think about what he actually wanted, not just what was safe. He enrolled in a community college, learned a new skill, and started a small business. It was late, but it was not too late. Ken proved that it is never too late to think big and live big. Point 14: How to think big about your career. Career thinking BS. Job thinking. Most people think about their work in terms of jobs, positions they hold, salaries they earn, bosses they report to. But the people who build extraordinary careers think in terms of contribution, growth, and impact. They do not just fill a role, they create value. Let me tell you about Michelle. Michelle was an administrative assistant at a law firm. Most people in her position thought about their job in terms of tasks, answer phones, schedule meetings, file documents. But Michelle thought about her job in terms of contribution. How could she make the attorneys more effective? How could she improve the client experience? How could she add value beyond her job description? Michelle started by observing what the attorneys struggled with. They were disorganized, overwhelmed, and terrible at managing their time. So Michelle created a system for organizing their cases, tracking their deadlines, and prioritizing their tasks. She did not wait to be asked. She saw a problem and solved it. The attorneys were grateful. Michelle's system saved them hours every week. Within a year, she was promoted to office manager. Within 3 years, she was running the entire firm. She had started as an administrative assistant and ended up as the person who made the whole operation run. Building a career portfolio. A career is not a single job. It is a portfolio of experiences, skills, and relationships that compound over time. The people who build extraordinary careers are intentional about what they add to their portfolio. Every job you take, every project you complete, every relationship you build is an addition to your career portfolio. The question is, are you building a portfolio that excites you or one that bores you? Are you accumulating experiences that expand your capabilities, or ones that keep you stuck? Consider the story of Daniel. Daniel was a marketing professional who made a series of career moves that seemed random at the time but turned out to be brilliant in retrospect. He started in traditional advertising, moved to digital marketing, then to data analytics, then to product management. Each move added a new dimension to his skill set. By the time Daniel was 40, he had a rare combination of creative, analytical, and strategic skills. Companies competed to hire him. He could command a premium salary. And more importantly, he could work on projects that truly excited him. His seemingly random career path had created a unique and valuable professional profile. Thinking big about your career future, the biggest career mistake most people make is thinking too short term. They optimize for the next promotion, the next raise, the next quarterly review. But the people who build extraordinary careers think in decades, not quarters. Ask yourself, where do I want to be in 10 years? Not next year, 10 years. What skills will I need? What relationships will matter? What kind of work will fulfill me? The answers to these questions should guide your decisions today. Dr. Schwartz warns against what he calls the job trap, the tendency to stay in a comfortable job because it pays well, even when it does not align with your long-term vision. The job trap is seductive because the salary feels good right now, but the cost is measured in decades of unfulfilled potential. Michelle, the administrative assistant who became a firm manager, had a 10-year vision from the very beginning. She did not plan to be an administrative assistant forever. She planned to learn the business from the ground up, build relationships with every attorney in the firm, and eventually run the operation. Every task she took on, every skill she developed, every relationship she built was aligned with that vision. Point 15: How to think big about your money. The wealth mindset. Your relationship with money is shaped by your thoughts about money. If you believe that wealthy people are greedy, you will unconsciously sabotage your own financial success. If you believe that money is the root of all evil, you will keep it at a distance. If you believe that you are not the kind of person who can be wealthy, you will prove yourself right. Let me tell you about David and Sarah. David grew up in a household where money was scarce. His parents constantly said things like, "Money does not grow on trees and rich people are crooks." David internalized these messages. Even as an adult, with a good job and stable income, he could not bring himself to save or invest. Spending felt safe. Saving felt wrong. Sarah grew up in a similar household, but she made a different choice. She examined her beliefs about money and realized they were not her own. They were her parents' beliefs, handed down without question. She decided to rewrite her money story. Sarah started reading books about personal finance. She learned about compound interest, investing, and building wealth. She opened a retirement account and started contributing a small amount each month. The sky did not fall. She did not become a bad person. She simply made a new choice about her financial future. The power of financial literacy. Most people spend more time planning their vacation than planning their financial future. This is not because they do not care about money. It is because they are afraid of it. Financial illiteracy is comfortable because it provides an excuse. I cannot manage money because I do not understand it. The truth is, personal finance is not complicated. You do not need a degree in economics to build wealth. You need three basic skills: earning, saving, and investing. Earning is about creating value and being compensated for it. Saving is about spending less than you earn. Investing is about putting your money to work for you. Consider the story of Marcus. Marcus was a teacher who earned a modest salary. He felt that building wealth was impossible on a teacher's income. Then he met a financial advisor who showed him the math. If Marcus saved just 10% of his income and invested it in a simple index fund, he would be a millionaire by age 65. Marcus was stunned. The math was simple, but it was powerful. The secret to building wealth was not a high salary or hot stock tip. It was time, consistency, and compound interest. Marcus started saving and investing immediately. 10 years later, he was well on his way to his first million. Thinking big about your financial future. Dr. Schwartz argues that the size of your financial thinking determines the size of your financial results. If you think small, "I just need enough to get by," you will always struggle. If you think big, "I want financial freedom and the ability to give generously," you will find a way to build wealth. Thinking big about money does not mean being reckless or greedy. It means having a clear vision of what you want your money to do for you, and then developing the discipline and knowledge to make it happen. Start by defining what financial success looks like for you. Is it early retirement? Is it funding your children's education? Is it traveling the world? Is it giving generously to causes you care about? The more specific your vision, the more motivated you will be to pursue it. Then, take action. Open a savings account. Start investing. Pay off high interest debt. Increase your earning potential through education or new skills. Every financial action you take is a step toward the life you want, and every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Point 16, how to think big about your relationships. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. Tony Robbins often says that the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. This is one of the most important truths in personal development. No amount of money, success, or achievement can compensate for poor relationships. Let me tell you about Emily and Jack. Emily was a successful entrepreneur who built a seven-figure business by age 35. She had everything she thought she wanted: a beautiful home, a luxury car, and a thriving company. But she was deeply lonely. She had sacrificed her friendships and her marriage on the altar of success. Jack was a teacher who earned a fraction of what Emily earned. But Jack had a rich social life. He had deep friendships, a loving marriage, and a community that supported him. When Jack's father passed away, 30 people showed up to the funeral. When Emily's mother passed away, only 3 people came. Emily and Jack had very different definitions of success. Emily measured success in dollars. Jack measured it in relationships. By Emily's definition, she was successful. By Jack's definition, she was not. The question is, which definition matters more? Building deeper connections. Most people have many acquaintances but few deep connections. They know hundreds of people on social media but have no one they can call at 2 a.m. in a crisis. Dr. Schwartz argues that deep connections require 3 ingredients: time, vulnerability, and consistency. Time means investing hours in relationships, not just moments. A quick text is not the same as a long conversation. A social media comment is not the same as a heartfelt letter. Deep connections require sustained attention. Vulnerability means letting people see the real you, not the curated version you show the world, but the messy, imperfect, authentic you. Vulnerability is scary because it opens you up to rejection, but it is also the gateway to intimacy. People connect with your imperfections, not your perfections. Consistency means showing up again and again, even when it is inconvenient. Relationships are not built in grand gestures. They are built in small, repeated acts of kindness, attention, and care. Thinking big about your relationship goals. Most people do not set goals for their relationships the way they set goals for their careers or finances. This is a mistake. Relationships require intentional cultivation, just like any other important area of life. Ask yourself, what kind of friend do I want to be? What kind of partner do I want to be? What kind of parent do I want to be? What kind of community member do I want to be? The answers to these questions should guide your actions. Emily, the lonely entrepreneur, eventually got the wake-up call she needed. She realized that her business success meant nothing without people to share it with. She started investing in her relationships, calling old friends, reconciling with her sister, joining a community group. It was hard work, but it was the most important work she had ever done. Your relationships are the foundation of your happiness. No matter how successful you are in other areas of life, if your relationships are shallow or broken, you will feel empty. Think big about your relationships. Invest in them. Nurture them. Protect them. They are the greatest source of joy and fulfillment you will ever have. Point 17, how to think big about your health. Health is the foundation. You can have wealth, fame, and power, but without health, none of it matters. Dr. Schwartz argues that health is the foundation upon which all other achievements are built. And yet, most people take their health for granted until it is threatened. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was a successful executive who worked 70-hour weeks. He skipped meals, slept 4 hours a night, and handled stress with alcohol and cigarettes. He told himself that he would take care of his health someday, after the next quarter, after the next project, after the next promotion. Sunday came abruptly when Robert had a heart attack at age 48. Lying in a hospital bed, connected to machines, he made a promise to himself If he survived, he would never take his health for granted again. Robert survived, and he kept his promise. He overhauled his lifestyle completely. He started exercising regularly. He changed his diet. He learned to manage stress through meditation and therapy. He quit smoking and reduced his alcohol intake. Within 2 years, he was healthier than he had been in decades. The mind-body connection: your thoughts affect your body as much as your body affects your thoughts. Stress, worry, and negativity create physical symptoms: headaches, digestive problems, muscle tension, weakened immunity. Conversely, positive thinking, relaxation, and joy create physical benefits: lower blood pressure, stronger immunity, better sleep, more energy. This is not New Age wishful thinking. It is well-established science. The field of psychoneuroimmunology has documented the powerful connection between mental states and physical health. Your brain and your body are not separate systems, they are one integrated system. Dr. Schwartz recommends what he calls health thinking, the deliberate practice of thoughts that support physical well-being. This includes visualizing your body as strong and healthy, managing stress proactively, and making lifestyle choices that align with your health goals. Consider the story of Maria. Maria suffered from chronic migraines that left her debilitated for days at a time. She tried medications, dietary changes, and various therapies with limited success. Then she began working with a therapist who specialized in mind-body medicine. Through visualization, stress management, and cognitive reframing, Maria reduced her migraine frequency by 80%. Thinking big about your health goals: most health goals are too small. I want to lose 10 pounds or I want to exercise more are not transformative goals. They are maintenance goals. Think bigger. What would it look like to be in the best shape of your life? What would it feel like to have boundless energy, mental clarity, and physical confidence? Set health goals that inspire you. Train for a triathlon. Learn a martial art. Hike the Appalachian Trail. Learn to cook gourmet healthy meals. These goals are exciting, and excitement is the fuel of sustained behavior change. The key is to approach health not as a chore but as an adventure. Exercise is not punishment for eating cake. It is celebration of what your body can do. Healthy eating is not deprivation. It is fueling yourself for the life you want to live. Robert, the executive who had a heart attack, eventually ran his first 5K race. He was 52 years old, and it was the proudest moment of his life. Not because of the time he achieved, but because of the journey that brought him there. He had gone from a man who could not climb a flight of stairs without losing his breath to a man who could run 3.1 miles without stopping. That transformation, from fragile to fit, from vulnerable to vital, was the greatest achievement of his career. Point eighteen: how to think big about your happiness. The happiness choice. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose. This is one of the most liberating and most challenging truths in personal development. Most people believe that happiness is a result of circumstances, a good job, a loving partner, a comfortable home. But research consistently shows that circumstances account for only a small portion of happiness. The majority comes from your mindset and your choices. Let me tell you about Christina. Christina had every reason to be happy. She had a loving husband, 2 healthy children, a beautiful home, and a successful career. But she was not happy. She was always waiting for the next thing: a promotion, a vacation, a renovation. She believed that happiness was just around the corner. One day, Christina's therapist asked her a simple question: if you could not change anything about your life, could you still be happy? Christina was stumped. She had never considered the possibility that happiness did not require external changes. The therapist introduced Christina to the practice of savoring, the deliberate attention to and appreciation of present moment pleasures. Instead of rushing through dinner to check email, Christina started savoring the taste of her food. Instead of scrolling through her phone at the park with her kids, she started watching them play with wonder and gratitude. The gratitude revolution. Gratitude is the most powerful happiness tool ever discovered. It is simple, free, and available to everyone, and yet most people do not use it because it feels too simple to be effective. Gratitude works by shifting your focus from what you lack to what you have. It does not deny problems or pretend that everything is perfect. It simply adds perspective. When you practice gratitude regularly, your brain actually rewires itself to notice the good in your life more readily. Consider the story of Michael. Michael was a chronically negative person who complained about everything: the weather, his commute, his boss, the government. His wife begged him to try a gratitude journal. Michael scoffed at the idea but agreed to try it for 30 days. The first week, Michael struggled to find things to be grateful for. "I am grateful for coffee," he wrote on day 1. "I am grateful the day is over on day 2. But by the second week, something shifted. He started noticing things he had taken for granted: the health of his children, the beauty of the sunrise, the kindness of the stranger. By the end of 30 days, Michael's entire outlook had changed. Creating sustainable happiness. Sustainable happiness comes from 3 sources: pleasure, purpose, and presence. Pleasure is the enjoyment of sensory experiences, good food, beautiful music, physical comfort. Purpose is the satisfaction of contributing to something larger than yourself: meaningful work, service to others, creative expression. Presence is the ability to be fully engaged in the current moment without distraction or regret. Most people pursue only pleasure and wonder why they are still unhappy. Pleasure is enjoyable but fleeting. Purpose provides deeper, more lasting satisfaction. Presence multiplies both. Dr. Schwartz recommends what he calls the happiness audit: a regular review of what brings you joy, what drains your energy, and what you can do to increase the former and decrease the latter. Christina, the woman who was always waiting for the next thing, eventually discovered that happiness was not in the future. It was in the present, available at any moment, if she chose to notice it. She stopped chasing happiness and started creating it, one grateful moment at a time. And in that shift, she found a joy deeper than any promotion or vacation could provide. Point 19: How to think big about your contribution. The need to contribute. Human beings have a fundamental need to contribute, to feel that their lives matter, that they are making a difference, that they are leaving the world better than they found it. When this need is unmet, people feel empty, purposeless, and adrift. When it is met, they feel alive, fulfilled, and connected to something larger than themselves. Let me tell you about Walter. Walter was a retired accountant who spent his days watching television, playing golf, and complaining about his aching joints. He had done everything right: saved money, raised a family, built a career. But in retirement, he felt useless. "Nobody needs me any more," he told his wife. One day, Walter's neighbor asked him to help her with her taxes. Walter agreed reluctantly but discovered that he enjoyed it. He was good at it, and she was grateful. That small act of contribution sparked something in Walter. Walter started volunteering at a local tax preparation service for low-income families. He spent his mornings helping people who could not afford professional tax help. He discovered that his skills, the skills he had used to make money for 40 years, could now be used to help people. The feeling of usefulness was intoxicating. Finding your unique contribution. Everyone has something unique to offer. Your combination of skills, experiences, perspectives, and passions is one of a kind. The question is not whether you have something to contribute. The question is whether you are contributing it. Dr. Schwartz argues that the most fulfilling contributions are the ones that align with your unique strengths and deepest values. When you contribute in a way that uses your best skills and serves your highest values, you experience what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls flow, a state of deep engagement and satisfaction. Consider the story of Priya. Priya was a software engineer who was good at her job but felt unfulfilled. She was building products for a company that made millions, but she did not feel that her work was making a meaningful difference. She started volunteering as a coding instructor at a nonprofit that taught programming to underprivileged youth. When Priya taught a 12-year-old girl named Aisha to write her first line of code, something clicked. "This is what I am supposed to be doing," Priya thought. She eventually left her corporate job and started a coding bootcamp for underserved communities. Her income dropped, but her satisfaction skyrocketed. Thinking big about your legacy. Your contribution is your legacy, the mark you leave on the world after you are gone. Most people do not think about legacy until it is too late, but thinking about legacy now can guide your decisions today. Ask yourself, what do I want to be remembered for? What difference do I want to have made? What would people say at my funeral? The answers to these questions reveal your deepest values and most important priorities. Legacy is not about fame or fortune. It is about impact. A teacher who inspires a student to love learning has a legacy. A parent who raises compassionate children has a legacy. A neighbor who keeps watch over the block has a legacy. Walter, the retired accountant, eventually became the most sought-after volunteer at the tax preparation service. He trained other volunteers, developed training materials, and built a program that served hundreds of families each year. When Walter passed away at 82, the service held a memorial in his honor. Dozens of families attended, many of them saying that Walter had changed their lives. That is the power of contribution. That is the magic of thinking big about what you can give. Point 20: How to think big about your future. The future is created today. Most people treat the future as something that happens to them. They say things like, I hope things get better, or maybe next year will be different. But the future is not something that happens to you. It is something you create, one decision at a time, starting today. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer was a 45-year-old woman who felt like her best years were behind her. She looked at her life, a mundane job, a stagnant marriage, a growing waistline, and assumed that this was it. The future, she believed, would be more of the same. One day, Jennifer attended a seminar on personal development. The speaker asked the audience to write a letter from their future self, a letter written 10 years in the future, describing the life they were living. Jennifer was skeptical, but she wrote the letter anyway. In her letter, Jennifer described a life that was dramatically different from her current one. She was healthier, more confident, and more fulfilled. She had started a small business, deepened her marriage, and discovered a passion for painting. As she wrote, tears streamed down her face. She realized that this future was not impossible, it was just unchosen. Jennifer made a decision that day to start creating the future she had described. She started with small changes, walking every morning, reading before bed, having honest conversations with her husband. Over time, these small changes accumulated into a life that looked remarkably like the one she had written about. Vision Planning. Dr. Schwartz recommends a practice called vision planning, creating a vivid, detailed picture of your ideal future and then working backward to determine what steps are needed to get there. Start with the end in mind. Where do you want to be in 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? Be specific. Not I want to be successful, but I want to be leading a team of 50 people at a company I help build, earning enough to support my family and give generously, living in a home that brings me joy. Then, identify the gaps between where you are and where you want to be. What skills do you need to develop? What relationships do you need to build? What habits do you need to change? What resources do you need to acquire? Finally, create a step-by-step plan. Break your vision into yearly goals, monthly milestones, weekly actions, and daily habits. The vision gives you direction. The plan gives you a path. The daily habits give you momentum. Protecting your future from the present. One of the biggest threats to your future is the tyranny of the present. It is easy to get so caught up in today's problems, today's pleasures, and today's demands that you forget about tomorrow. But every choice you make today is either building your future or eroding it. Consider the story of Alex. Alex was a young professional who spent his evenings binge-watching television and scrolling through social media. He told himself he was relaxing and unwinding. But 5 years passed, and he had not grown at all. His skills were the same. His network was the same. His life was the same. Meanwhile, his colleague David spent his evenings differently. David read books, took online courses, and attended networking events. By the time David was 30, he had been promoted twice, started a side business, and built a network of mentors and allies. The difference between Alex and David was not talent or intelligence. It was how they used their evenings. Alex was trading his future for present comfort. David was investing his present in a better future. Your future is being created right now, and the choices you make today. Choose wisely. Point 21: The magic is in the doing. Action is the ultimate differentiator. We have traveled a long journey through the pages of this book. We have explored the power of belief, the cure for our excuses, the building of confidence, the destruction of fear, and the cultivation of attitudes that serve us. We have talked about thinking big in our careers, our money, our relationships, our health, our happiness, our contribution, and our future. But none of it matters without one final, essential ingredient: action. You can have the most brilliant strategy in the world, the most inspiring vision, the most powerful mindset. But if you do not act, none of it counts. The magic is not in the thinking. The magic is in the doing. Let me tell you about Susan. Susan had read every self-help book on the market. She had attended seminars, listened to podcasts, and hired coaches. She could quote Dr. Schwartz, Tony Robbins, and Brene Brown with the best of them. But her life had not changed. She was still in the same job, still in the same apartment, still stuck in the same patterns. The reason was simple. Susan was a student of personal development, not a practitioner. She consumed information voraciously but applied it sparingly. She could tell you everything about thinking big, but she was not thinking big. She was just reading about it. Starting before you are ready. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is, I will start when I am ready. But here is the truth. You will never be ready. Readiness is a myth. It is a delaying tactic dressed up as prudence. The people who achieve great things are not the ones who wait until they are ready. They are the ones who start before they are ready and figure it out along the way. Consider the story of Tom. Tom wanted to start a podcast. He spent months researching equipment, studying successful podcasts, and planning his content. His friend finally said to him, Tom, you have been planning for 6 months. Just record an episode. Tom's first episode was terrible. The audio quality was poor. His delivery was awkward, but he published it anyway. Tom's second episode was a little better. His fifth episode was better still. By his 50th episode, Tom had a growing audience, decent equipment, and a natural delivery style. He had become a good podcaster by doing it, not by planning to do it. The same principle applies to everything in life. You become a writer by writing. You become a leader by leading. You become a confident person by acting confidently. Action precedes identity. Do first, become second. The compound effect of daily action. One action rarely changes your life, but consistent daily action compounds over time into extraordinary results. This is what Darren Hardy calls the compound effect, the principle that small, smart choices, consistently applied, lead to remarkable outcomes. Think of it like interest in a savings account. A single dollar is not much, but a dollar invested every day, compounded over decades, becomes a fortune. The same is true for habits, skills, and relationships. Every small action you take today adds to the compound interest of your life. Dr. Schwartz recommends what he calls the 1% rule, improving by just 1% every day. That sounds insignificant, but the math is powerful. If you improve by 1% every day for a year, you will be 37 times better by the end of that year. Not 37% better, 37 times better. The key is consistency. It is not the grand gestures that change your life. It is the small, daily actions that you repeat without fail. Exercise for 20 minutes every morning. Read for 30 minutes every evening. Write for 15 minutes every afternoon. These small actions, compounded over time, create a life that is dramatically different from the life you would have lived without them. Your call to action as we close this book, I want to leave you with a challenge. Do not just read about thinking big. Think big. Do not just learn about confidence. Be confident. Do not just understand the importance of action. Act. Choose one thing from this book that resonated with you, one idea, one principle, one strategy, and implement it today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Start small if you must, but start. The world does not need more people who know what to do but do not do it. The world needs people who think big, act boldly, and live fully. The world needs you, not the you that plays it safe, but the you that takes risks, makes mistakes, and grows from the experience. Remember Sarah, the single mom who became a nurse. Remember David, the writer who finally wrote his novel. Remember Rachel, the woman who conquered her fear of public speaking. Remember all the people in these pages who chose to think big and were transformed by the choice. They were not different from you. They were not more talented, more lucky, or more deserving. They simply made a decision to believe in themselves, to take action, and to create a life they were proud of. That same decision is available to you, right now, in this moment. The magic of thinking big is not in the book. It is in you. It has always been in you. All you have to do is activate it. Think big, act boldly, live fully. The world is waiting for the contribution that only you can make. Conclusion: as we reach the end of this journey together, I want to pause and reflect on the remarkable collection of wisdom we have explored. These 21 lessons are not just ideas to admire from a distance. They are tools to be used, principles to be practiced and truths to be lived. David J. Schwartz wrote The Magic of Thinking Big because he believed, deeply and passionately, that the size of your success is determined by the size of your thinking. He saw, again and again, that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things, not because they were special, but because they thought differently. The lessons in this book are not complicated. Believe in yourself. Stop making excuses. Build confidence. Face fear. Think big. Take action. Be grateful. Contribute. These are simple ideas, but they are not easy. If they were easy, everyone would do them, and the world would look very different. The gap between knowing and doing is the most dangerous gap in human experience. You now know what to do. The question is, will you do it? Will you wake up tomorrow and choose belief over doubt? Will you catch yourself making excuses and choose action instead? Will you face your fears rather than hide from them? The magic of thinking big is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. It is a way of being. It is the ongoing choice to see possibility instead of limitation, to take action instead of making excuses, to pursue growth instead of clinging to comfort. Your life is a story that is still being written. The chapters you have already lived are done. You cannot change them. But the chapters ahead are blank, waiting for you to fill them with the kind of thinking, the kind of action, and the kind of life that makes you proud. So go. Think big. Act boldly. Live fully. The world needs the best version of you. And the best version of you is the one who refuses to play small. Thank you for taking this journey. May the magic of thinking big transform every corner of your life.